return to a question I wanted to ask you guys. Did you guys regret any what was it parcours that you guys went through in terms of education?
Huh.
Like if you were to restart, if you
Oh
can,
man.
education, would you change anything in terms of your orientation of where you went through in life? So if you want to start art sooner, if you want to change schools or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Like I regret taking pure and applied science straight out of high school. I should have just went in a 3 year program and got a technical school, and
Mm,
I would have been working with like an airplane company by now, you
mm,
know,
yeah.
and making like decent money. But
Mm,
I just I felt like I could have reached more, but to my to my understanding, I misjudged my interests. Like
mm,
I didn't take my interest into heart. I just went for the title. It's
mm,
a big mistake. Like I'd rather sacrifice the title for something that I'd like to do in the future, you know? Like I
yeah.
don't give a fuck about titles. Titles are titles. But you doing the practice that you love and you have a passion for, I feel like it's a better investment. And I should have done that from the start.
Yeah.
That's wise.
I would choose though.
Um, yeah, I think one thing I will say that I would not change ever is where I went to high school, Collège de Montréal.
Mm,
That
okay.
was a great place to learn and have my eyes opened about the world, and like I found it was a great place to go for high school. Um,
For CJEP though.
for Cégep, I do have things that I would change.
Where'd you go to CJEP again?
Brébeuf,
Oh, okay, yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
uh,
Brebeuf.
What you would
yeah,
change?
Isn't it private?
Yeah,
it is.
It's a
so you,
business CJEP, no?
Um,
It's we talk about like specializing like colleges and stuff like special. I think it
I
was
think
just business.
sciences are usually
science is yeah,
Really?
the
Oh.
thing for that CEGEP. But the thing is, I didn't start out. I did my whole first year not in arts, thinking, oh, I just want to like use school to learn things about like society, about the world. I
mm,
want to like deepen my knowledge
yeah,
and not associate that to my career choice, which I knew I wanted to write stories and I wanted
okay,
to make art, right? So I saw those as different things. And in a way, I did get stuff out of that. I
yeah,
like spending a year, I learned a lot about politics, which informed my opinion till this day, which
mm,
has changed me as a person, which has like I love a lot of the stuff like psychology, anthropology that we were studying.
yeah,
Criminology, I was really a fan of.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. You go. I mean, your was it your grandpa that was or your uncle was it that was
yeah,
a lawyer? Yeah.
yeah, he was, yeah. Um, and he's the one who actually told me at some point because my parents
Yeah.
thought that maybe I should be a lawyer too. They said
Don't
I'd
be
be
a lawyer.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, "Don't do it. It's soul crushing." So he helped me in that sense. He gave me a
I mean, yeah, it's good advice.
right. It is. So I knew I wasn't gonna do that, even though I seem to have a knack for it, but I don't know if I would have been happy.
Mm,
So yeah, after a year, I realized I should just be studying this. So I went into theater, and then I went into film in Concordia.
well, theater you went in Brebeuf, right? Is that
Yep,
it?
I stayed. I did the whole thing in
Was it 2 years or 3 years?
2 years and a half.
Okay.
I completed my theater thing,
Yeah.
and that I loved. I That was a great choice.
Mm,
That was very interesting. Lots of practical application of what I learned there.
yeah.
That was that was a good time.
I mean,
And
yeah.
good for you. You actually landed on something that you found very much interesting to you.
Yeah,
And
That's
some people are not as much
yeah. They're not
as
lucky enough.
fortunate. Yeah, so some people spend years trying to figure
yeah,
out like
What they
what they
want.
want to do,
which
and
is
that's
understandable. You know,
yeah, of course.
people being like lost or not knowing is like completely valid, completely like a normal thing
Mm.
about like learning about what you want to be doing, right?
I think that's where the stress goes into because like basically you have your entire school years, including university, if you're taking that to figure out what you want to do. But
Right.
ultimately, the hardest part is what comes after. So once
Mm.
you're out of the institution, most people they freak out because they hope like there's a there's a firm or say a business company that will hire them before their school ends or term ends. But like
Yeah,
say for like for acting, for example, for drama school or for other that's a lot harder because that's
yeah,
you have to seek out the work,
yeah.
not
Nothing's waiting for you. You have to go out.
exactly.
What
You
about
gotta
you?
go out there.
For me, for me it's the same thing. I feel like in high school, um, the thing is because like in high school we did drama, right? So it was we did Shakespeare, we did Hamlet, we did Macbeth, and I enjoyed them. It's just that because I was in a class that was sort of focused on that aspect, I didn't really take it seriously either. And then CJ, because our what is it our advisor basically told us you should go to Pure and Apply because it'll open more doors. That's basically why I think majority of us went to Pure and Apply because it was just sort of like it was better for us in long term. So we kind of sacrificed our short term uh, strives to sort of like attain this sort of bigger gate that will hopefully give us more opportunities later on. But in the end, you just realize, nah, it doesn't really give you anything. If anything, you're just wasting time. So
It makes the process more tedious for no reason
Right.
exactly. So I
instead
feel
of
like
getting straight to the point.
yeah, I would have probably um the only problem is because there weren't many schools that were sort of advocating for acting and like
Right.
directing and all that. So it was a lot harder in terms of like drama. You had to go to a whole different institution,
Mhm.
say like La Sala or whatever. But I think I don't know. I don't really regret where I went because ultimately I like Phil's. He learned a lot of stuff during his parcours. Same thing for me, and I also met a lot of people that sort of taught me good lessons. So I don't hate on that. But at the same time, I guess if Montreal had more opportunities in the arts section, it would have been a good way to go about it. And university was kind of like, oh fuck it, I'll just go to Concordia. In it, it's the closest one.
Yeah, it's a bit soul crushing sometimes when you feel like you've spent the years trying to look for something that you're interested in,
Yeah.
and you spent the money, the time, and at the end of the day, you haven't found anything. It's a bit discouraging. But what
Yeah.
I could say about that is not everyone is gonna find their path on the first try,
Mm,
but it's always good to stay consistent in the search.
yeah.
Like I feel like people give up too easily
Mm,
on like school and stuff. Like, oh man, I spent like 2 3 years and I haven't found anything yet. Fuck school. I tend to say to those people to stay a little bit more patient. I know it's hard because I feel like, hey, I'm saying like this as my personal experience. I feel like I wasted 3 years on pure and applied. Like I feel like I
yeah.
wasted 3 years plus 2 more years in university
Mm,
that I could have easily like done a technical
yeah.
program
Yeah.
and still be in the same field that I like and do exactly what I want to do. But it's never too late to backtrack a little bit
Mm,
and to pick something that you actually like. So to those people that feel a little bit discouraged, don't be. It's normal. It's a process. Life is, and it's always good to keep your head up.
yeah.
Just keep going.
I think the biggest problem though is the fact that and a lot of programs, especially in science, it's very competitive. And so instead of help,
Extremely, yes.
yeah, so instead of helping each other out, it's sort of like, oh, because there's 70 spots left there, we gotta be the best. And so ultimately, other people sort of like try to pull you down and sort of like
I'll tell you something
you're
about that.
dumber than me, and sort of like it's
I'll,
kind
t-
of
I'll I'll tell you something about that. It's a few like I think last semester. Yeah, it was last semester. We had this like project in university. It's called Minicap.
okay.
Minicap is like capstone. It's short for capstone. It's like the engineering project where you have to like meet like different engineers from
Mm,
different fields meet up, like two from mechanical, two from electrical, and one from construction, whatever.
mm.
And they meet up so they can create a project. And whatever the project this year was, like I don't know, like a machine that throws frisbees. I don't know,
Okay, yeah,
something
something
like
small,
that.
yeah.
So one time we were designing the pieces on SolidWorks, like the program itself on a computer.
Yeah.
We're designing the gears and stuff. And mid project, my partner, we were two so
Okay.
far,
Okay.
decided to go to another group to
Mm,
complete the five
mm.
members over there. So I was left alone with the
Wow.
half of the minicap to do and to complete.
Wow.
It's a lot of backstabbing, man. Like
Yeah, it's a lot.
like to gain so he could gain a spot and do like 1/5 of the work that's already done.
Yeah, to
Sacrifice half with me, and
yeah.
through like the other half of me to complete alone.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I found another team and stuff, and we collided our projects together. But just to like give you an example of how people are, man, they don't
Well,
give a fuck.
well, that's why it's very so you have to be very ruthless in this game, where it's like but
Yeah, but I
ultimately.
don't stab people, man.
But
Like
that's the thing.
I don't do it
No.
personally. I don't
I
like
mean,
it.
like you gotta be very self-aware. It's very aware of what people can do and how like the game works. Because ultimately, and that's why like I have really bad like trust issues. And sort of like whenever I meet someone, it's just like it's a game. You gotta test out the waters and see what
Yeah.
their intentions really are.
See who's putting in the work and who
Yeah, and
isn't.
seeing like if they're really talking to talk or they're just talking shit. But it's but the thing is like a lot of people have this sort of they have this idea like right now like I had this idea in mind. We did a podcast, right? And thankfully I've stumbled upon people who actually enjoy making the podcast and editing the podcast. So I was and also our filmmaking. So I was looking in that department, but like for the longest time I was recruiting like many different people to help me out with projects, and it was like the most like it just didn't work because you meet people who are just not they're in there for their self-interest, right? So
Hmm.
but the thing is a lot of big projects, even like big companies that started off, they're all like small little things that were nothing, and then because it was consistently built upon, uh and worked on, it eventually became a big thing, which I find hilarious because that's usually when everyone starts flocking towards it, right? So like
Yeah.
like whenever you have a unsuccessful thing, like you have a book, you write a book, it's like, oh, your book is nice, whatever, and then later on you become a really successful author. It's like, oh, can I have a signature? And it's like very very
Yeah.
funny.
Like where were you when I started? You know what I'm saying?
You could have
Right.
been a part of this, but instead you wanted to be against me for some odd like ego reason, like very prideful reason. It's like
Like
I feel
people that were there from the beginning should be the people that are like credited for their participation
exactly.
and helped you like grow from the beginning. Those are the people that you should keep close to, and
Yeah,
I agree with that.
and also like a lot of people who basically make it out alive. Like Zuckerberg is one of the big examples where he fucked over his friend to become
Yeah.
bigger, and
Hmm.
it's sort of like it goes both ways at the same time. So it's kind of fucked.
Right. Yikes.